thank each of you for your testimony. Mr. Mills, let me come to you because you said that even when your men and women went down to make the rescue, you weren't sure if the electricity was turned off. You weren't sure that there were passengers on the train. Is that correct?
Yeah, at the time they initially made their way into the station, we had not received the information.
Yeah, I need yeses or nos. I only got
That's
5
correct,
minutes.
yes.
Okay, if that's correct, why would you have not known? Who is responsible for letting you know that?
When the call was made from WMATA to the Office of Unified Communications, they should have.
So WMATA should have known that the track was energized, not energized.
Correct.
Said there's people on the train, you need to get there, and that communication did not happen.
Correct.
Mr. Downey, why did that not happen?
That's one of the reasons why I've asked the Control Center study to be accomplished. That's their function.
I guess before we answer the question, Mr. Downey, how many people have to die and how many events do we have to have before we can answer that question? Why did that not happen?
We should not have another event like this at any time. We need to look at our procedures. We need to retrain our people. We need to establish as.
But I looked at some of the question and answer, yeah. Mr. Downey, and this is not to be directed just at you. I looked at some of the questions and answers with 2009. And some of the same things were said back then. We're going to do training, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And yet here we are some 6 years later, and the same thing happened.
I would like to provide for you the things we have done, but there's still a long list of things that
if you tell the 80-plus people that were facing death about the things we have done, they don't care about that. All they care about the things we haven't done. Right. All right. So let me ask you, Mr. Downey, because a lot has been made of this resources and lack of resources that we have, and that this is not just a management problem. And so, because I don't know, I just went in and I went to the National Transit Database, and I looked at what transit in New York, Chicago, and here in Washington, what they're spending. And when I looked at those figures, it looks like you're spending more money than Chicago, who has a bigger system. So is it really a resource problem or a management problem?
I don't know whether you're talking about our operating expense or our
I'll look at operating and total, because you're spending more on all of those things.
I know we are spending more on capital than probably Chicago, not as much as New York. We're spending a lot because we're catching up from years and years of deferred maintenance. We really need to go through the system and replace.
So your testimony here today is that you're not really spending more than those systems that are actually bigger, that your budget is not bigger.
I don't know if our operating.
Because I went back over 10 years, and I looked at the budget and compared it to Chicago. And your budget every single year is bigger all the way around than Chicago, who is a bigger system with more employees and more customers. So is that a management problem?
I'd be happy to look at that. I know it's smaller than New York, but I know the comparison to Chicago I'm not familiar with.
All right. So let me go on a little bit further, because what troubles me is that we'll have this hearing and nothing happens. Do you believe that some of the problem was because smoke in tunnels, trains not working, elevators not working, escalators not working, things not working, that's become so commonplace that when Mr. Mills got the call, they just figured, well, it's just another smoke in the tunnel? Is that commonplace to see smoke in the tunnels?
There are occasions where either a trash fire or some small thing happens where there is smoke, but I think we should always assume that there are people at risk. I think the response should be based on the fact that trains run in the tunnels, people are on trains. We really have to keep that in mind as what could be a worst case and respond to it.
All right. Mr. Hart, my last question is to you, because obviously, you're going to make some recommendations. You have made some preliminary things. I go back to some of the prior events, not just 2009, but before that. The NTSB has made recommendations in those, and you've closed some of your recommendations because WMATA has not responded. And to quote your report, it says, because you could not compel them to take action. Do you expect the same response this time?
I wouldn't want to predict what the response is. I would just say that at this point, WMATA is cooperating with us very well in the investigation.
Have they always cooperated with every recommendation in the past?
Well, I don't.
Yes or no?
I wouldn't say every recommendation. Most.
So there are recommendations that you deemed important that they did not respond to?
Yet, that's correct.
All right, thank you.